So the last time I did a little weapon breakdown list for Battlefield 4, I got a ton of views on it and a ton of love and likes from you guys, and I figured I'd go ahead and do it again. Hey there broskies, it's Lupus, and today I have gathered as much information as I can about the confirmed weapons for Battlefield 4, and the ironic part was that I was going through each of the live stream videos that I saw, and I was looking in the kill feed, finding out the guns. I found out as many as I could from what we've seen so far, and then I went on Reddit and somebody had already uploaded pictures of each and every page within the customization screen to let us know every attachment, every gun, everything in Battlefield 4. And I figured I'd go ahead and show you guys a video of all of the confirmed weapons that we have seen on here, which are all of them, so you guys don't have to worry about whether there are any more or whatever. But there's so many weapons, guys. There's so many variations of weapons. There's so much epic stuff to show you guys today, and I hope you guys will enjoy. But I will be making a video talking about a lot of the equipment within the game, but today is just weapons. So let's go ahead and get started. So what I plan on doing today, guys, is going through each category of weapons, listing the weapons, and if there was a time within any of the live streams or any of the trailers showing the weapon, I'm going to try and pull it up on the screen for you guys to see and get a visual idea of what it will look like in game. And if it doesn't, if we haven't seen it so far, I'm going to try and pull up a picture of what it looks like in real life so that you guys can get an idea of what it's going to be. But let's go ahead and start off with the first category, and this is going to be the assault rifles. To start off with, we have the AK-12, and this is going to probably be the starting off Russian assault rifle, which is a variant of the AK-47 if you guys could not already tell. And it's going to perform very similar to the AK-47. It's going to have a similar firing rate. And overall, I think this gun is going to be very fun to use. I find myself using the AK-74M in Battlefield 3 a lot. I love that gun, and I know I'm probably going to use this gun a lot. Then we have the Scar H, which used to be a carbine within Battlefield 3, and I'm very happy that they were able to bring it back as an assault rifle, because I feel like being in the carbine class gave it limitations, because the carbines were known to have a slightly lower damage than the assault rifles, and the fact that it is a high damage weapon wouldn't have fit in the category, and they had to make it a little bit weaker than it really should have been. So I think we're finally going to get to see this gun like shine. Next we get to see the M416, which was in Battlefield 3, an absolute favorite of almost everybody. I loved this gun a lot. They did make some minor modifications to it. They improved the iron sights, and overall it looks great. The next gun we have is the SAR-21. If you guys will remember, I did make a video talking about this rifle. It's the SAR stands for Singapore Assault Rifle, and it's an overall really cool weapon. It is of bullpup design. It has a very similar resemblance to the AUG or the TAR, and they all look very similar, and I think this gun's going to be really cool. It's probably going to have a higher firing rate, and it's going to have low recoil due to its bullpup design, but it looks awesome, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. The next gun is the AEK-971, and as the M416 had some aesthetic differences to it, they also made some differences to this gun as well, and I think it's going to be a really overused weapon. And once again, it's probably going to have very similar statistics, but it's still going to be an awesome gun, and I'm glad they were able to bring it back. The next gun is the FAMAS, which unfortunately is exactly the same. They kept the same iron sights, they kept the 26 round magazine, and honestly I think the FAMAS is a very good weapon to use if you don't use the iron sights, and I feel like the iron sights are restrictive on console. I feel like on PC the iron sights are a little bit easier to use, but I definitely wish they would have changed the iron sights. If anything, the magazine size is fine, but it's good to see that gun back. The next gun is the AUG A3, which is another bullpup designed gun. It's probably going to have very similar performance to the SAR-21, and we all remember it from Battlefield 3 coming in the Close Quarters DLC, and I'm really glad that they're able to bring this gun back as well. The next gun is the M16A3, which was for the longest time the best performing gun in the game, and after trying to nerf it so much, all they ended up doing was making the M416 better. So I'm glad they're bringing it back. I love this weapon, one of my most used weapons. It is definitely a favorite of mine, and I'm happy they're bringing it back. The next gun is the CZ805 Bren. This gun is very similar in looks to a Scar H, which is funny because the gun was based off of a gun that was based off of the AK-47, but it's obviously doesn't look or perform anything like an AK-47, but it's definitely going to be an interesting gun to use within the game. The next gun is the QBZ-95-1. This is the assault rifle variant of the QBZ-95. You'll see what I mean in a second when I point out the carbine version. But I showed you guys some gameplay of this gun, and I think this gun is going to be awesome. It just overall, it seems like the QBZ-95B from Battlefield 3 and the A91 had a baby, and this gun just came out, and it seems really awesome. The Ace-23 is another gun that as I said in a video before, it is a gun that is a modernized version of the Galil, which the Galil was based off of the AK-47, so it's probably going to perform very similarly to the AK-12. And overall, the gun seems really cool. We did see an Ace-21, you might remember, within the trailer that I broke down. And I did not misspeak. There was an Ace-21, and I'll show you it in a minute. But the Ace-23 is something that we have not seen yet. Now let's move on to the next gun category. Now I want to look at the carbines. To start off with, we come out with the AK-5C, which is one of the only carbines that we have seen up to this point. And to me, the AK-5C is going to be something I plan on using a lot. A lot of people think it's a mediocre weapon, but I used it in Medal of Honor Warfighter, and it was a very unused weapon, but I somehow was good with it, and I feel like I'm probably going to be able to use this gun fairly well within Battlefield 4. The next one is the ACWR, which once again was probably one of a lot of people's favorite carbines, which came in the Close Quarters DLC, and it was an absolute beast, but it took them a while to get it to the point it was, because when the gun was first introduced into Battlefield 3, the gun had no vibration on a controller. On PC they didn't have this issue, but on consoles they had no vibration on the controller, and they had to wait for a patch before this gun's glory became known, because a lot of people didn't use it up to that point. The next gun is the SG-553, which is the co-op weapon that you were able to unlock in Battlefield 3. To me, this gun was kind of weak in some ways. It had a slow firing rate, the damage was mediocre, and I'm hoping they can kind of improve it in Battlefield 4, but I don't know exactly what they're going to do. But it is going to be interesting to see this gun remade and remastered in Battlefield 4. The next gun is the AKU-12, and you'll notice it's very similar to the AK-12 in name and in looks. This is actually a bullpup designed version of the AK-12 from what I was able to find out. I tried to look this gun up a lot online, and what I was able to find out was that it is a very similar looking gun to the AK-107, which is a bullpup designed AK. So if it looks like that, then that would make me think that this is a bullpup designed AK-12 gun. So I think that's what it is, and it's probably going to be something really cool. The next gun is the A91, which was in Battlefield 3. Probably one of the best engineer weapons, had high damage, high firing rate, pretty good magazine size, and its reload was pretty decent as well, so I'm happy to see this gun return. The next gun is the Ace-52 CQB, which is as it says, it's a close quarters version of the Ace, which basically means it's a compacted version of it. And I think it's going to be very interesting. But there's another weapon very similar, the Ace-21 CQB. If I can skip down the list a little bit, the Ace-21 CQB and the Ace-52 CQB are very similar weapons. The main difference being that the Ace-21 CQB looks basically exactly like the Ace-23, but it does not. The Ace-52 CQB has a curved magazine. That's the main difference. I'm going to try and put a little comparison picture up on the screen for you guys, but they are both very similar weapons, and I'm interested to see how they are going to perform differently. The next gun is the G36C, which was in Battlefield 3. I'm sure a lot of you guys are happy to see that gun come back. The next gun is the M4A1, which I'm happy to see come back, because that was my favorite engineer weapon. It was basically the M16A3's little sister, and I thought it was an amazing gun. And the final gun in the engineer carbine, or not in the engineer because the engineers no longer have this exclusively, but in the carbine category is the Type 95B1, which is the QBZ-95B that was in Battlefield 3. I'm not sure why they decided to call it the Type 95B, while the other Type 95 is called the QBZ-95, so I don't know why they decided to do that. It might be a little slip up, they might change it later, but that is the same gun. It just, know, it basically is a nickname for it. But now let's move on to the next category of weapons. Now let's look at the LMG class for Battlefield 4. To start off with, we have the Ultimax 100 MK5, which to me seems like it's going to be the M27 IAR of Battlefield 3. It has a lot of assault rifle characteristics, but at the same time being very similar, or being a LMG classed weapon, so it's definitely going to be something really cool to use. The next one is the Type 88 LMG, which was in Battlefield 3, and from what I've heard, they beefed up the gun a little bit to make it a little bit better, and it might be used a lot more within Battlefield 4 than it was in Battlefield 3. The next weapon is the LSAT, which we all should remember from Battlefield 3, being in the close quarters map pack, having the fastest belt-fed LMG reload time due to the fact that it had caseless ammunition, so it didn't have to pull out the cases or anything like that, and it's definitely one of the most futuristic LMGs to date, and I'm glad they're incorporating it into the game again. The next weapon is the PKP Pecheneg, which was my favorite LMG from Battlefield 3. I'm not sure if it's going to be my favorite in Battlefield 4 because there's a lot more epic ones to choose from, but I definitely am glad they've brought this gun back. The next one is the QBB 85-1, which was the LMG QBB from Battlefield 3 from the Back to Karkan map pack, and to me it was a little underpowered, and just like they did with the Type 88, I'm sure they're probably going to improve it a little bit and make it a little bit stronger so that a lot more people will use it. The next one is the M240B, aka the gun that I called Frankenstein in Battlefield 3, and I'm glad they're bringing this gun back. It's definitely a really good gun. And the next one is the MG4, which is the new little LMG that they are incorporating into the game, and I believe this gun is going to be a big contender against the M240B and the PKP Pecheneg, replacing the M60, because those three guns within Battlefield 3 were the big, the big LMGs that you had, and I feel like this one is definitely going to be a better competitor for those two guns, and it probably will be used a lot. The next gun is the M249, which everybody should remember from Battlefield 3 as well. It's the highest firing rate LMG with a high capacity mag, shooting a 5.56 round, which is smaller than the usual, but it's still a great LMG regardless. The next gun is the RPK-12, which we should all remember from Battlefield 3 as well, and I'm glad to see this gun come back. And I was expecting maybe they'd replace this with another Russian LMG, but I guess this is just the one they wanted to stick with, considering they did replace the M27IR with the U100 MK5. Now let's move on to the next class of weapons. So now we're going to look at the DMR class within Battlefield 4. I know a lot of you guys are probably wondering, what is the DMR? The DMR is a new class of weapons that DICE decided to bring into the game, when a DMR is basically a semi-automatic rifle. And generally in Battlefield 3, those weapons were only in the recon class as snipers. But in real life, those are considered designated marksman rifles, which can be used as sniper rifles if you wanted to, but that's not their only purpose. They're kind of a well-rounded weapon between assault rifles and snipers, and they decided to add a separate class for them where you can use them universally in all classes. To start off with, we have the RFB, which is a bullpup designed sniper rifle, or DMR actually, where it shoots semi-automatic, but it is a bullpup designed rifle where it will have less recoil, and it just overall will probably be more accurate than most of the other ones. And from the gameplay that I've seen, it looks like it has really high damage. The next one is the MK11 Mod O. And you guys will probably remember that from Battlefield 3. It was the first sniper rifle that you unlocked, and now that it's a DMR, it might be a little bit better. Who knows, they might have upped the damage a little bit, make it a little bit better, because sometimes it just didn't cut it within Battlefield 3. The next gun is the SKS, which was in Battlefield 3 as well, and was somewhat annoying because so many people spammed that gun, because all you had to do was download the Physical Warfare expansion pack, which was free right off the bat. You already had it, you didn't have to unlock anything else, and you had a pretty decent damage semi-automatic DMR in your hands right there. The next one is the SVD-12, which a lot of you guys remember the SVD from Battlefield 3, and basically it is a very similar weapon. It just has slight differences, but it is basically the same weapon. And it's just, we're going to get another Dragunov within Battlefield 4. The next weapon is the QBU-88, which a lot of you guys will also remember as the Back to Karkan DMR or semi-automatic sniper rifle within Battlefield 3, which had one of the ugliest iron sights along with the FAMAS. I think that map pack was infamous for having ugly iron sights, and if they're following the same path they did with the FAMAS, I doubt this gun will have different iron sights, but who knows, we'll have to wait and see. The next DMR is the M39 EMR, which was probably one of my favorite semi-automatic sniper rifles in Battlefield 3. It was statistically the highest damage and lowest drop-off sniper rifle for the semi-automatic sniper rifle category, and it was just overall a beast. The next one is the Ace 53 SV, and I'm sure a lot of you guys already assumed that is probably a little DMR single semi-automatic sniper rifle variant of the Ace, and you guys are right, but unfortunately this is where I ran into some problems, and you'll see this happens later on down the line. DICE decided to use a lot of weapons that are still in production, that are still being developed, that the public has not really been able to see as publicly as all these other weapons. This was one of them. It's hard to find pictures. I'm sure there's probably a ton that I could find, but I couldn't find it, and I apologize for not being able to find that one. The next one is the SCAR HSV, which I'm sure you guys already figured this out as well, is a sniper rifle, semi-automatic single-fire sniper rifle DMR version of the SCAR H, and the main difference between this is that it has a longer rail system as well as a longer barrel, but other than that it is very similar to the SCAR H, and it is also semi-automatic. And that's all for this category of weapons. Let's move on to the next. Now let's move on to the shotgun category in Battlefield 4. To start off with, we have the QBS-09, which a lot of you guys may remember the engineer had a shotgun over his shoulder in the high resolution pictures that we were released to us a couple days ago in the Chinese faction, and he had a shotgun over his shoulder, and initially I thought it was a SPAS 12, but I found out now that it is a QBS-09, which has a resemblance to the SPAS 12, but this shotgun is semi-automatic. It is not pump action. It does have a hand grip in the same area as the pump would be, but it is not pump action. And it's definitely going to probably perform very similarly to the M1014. It's probably going to be the Chinese counterpart for the M1014, and I'm interested to see what it's going to be like within the game. The next shotgun is the 870 Combat Shotgun MCS, and this shotgun was shown to us initially in the trailer for the single player back in March or so, February or March, and it's probably going to look more like that than it does in Battlefield 3. I like the way they are taking it. It looks a lot better than it did in Battlefield 3 in my opinion. It was kind of ugly in Battlefield 3 to be fair, and I like the way they have the stock is gone, and it's more of a compact version of it, and I really do like that. The next shotgun is the M1014, which I was just speaking about, which is a semi-automatic shotgun, which was a beast in Battlefield 3, and I'm sure it's going to be a beast in this game as well. The next shotgun is the Hawk 12 gauge, and I actually talked about this in my last confirmed weapons video, where this shotgun is basically an exact replica of the 870. And DICE, being very smart, decided to change them aesthetically, and because the guns default look exactly the same, but you have options to customize the way they look, add a different stock, add a different stuff like that. And that's what they ended up doing. And the interesting thing is they made this shotgun magazine fed in this game, which in real life a lot of the times it's not, but there is modifications you can do to make that happen. And it is a magazine fed pump action shotgun. The next shotgun is the Sega 12K, which is also a magazine fed shotgun, but it is a semi-automatic shotgun, so it's a little bit different. It was in Battlefield 3, it was very infamous as well. The next shotgun is the SPAS 12, which in my opinion in Battlefield 3 was the better of the two pump action shotguns, but the addition of all these other pump action shotguns that we're seeing in Battlefield 4, it's probably going to have a little bit more competition. The next shotgun is the UTS-15, and this shotgun is very interesting because to me it looks very similar to the Sega, or not the Sega, but the KSG that was in Call of Duty. It doesn't look exactly the same, but it has a very similar style to it and look, and actually I found comparison pictures comparing this gun to the KSG. It is a little bit larger than the KSG, but overall it's made very similarly, and I have a feeling that it might be made by the same people, or that it is a variant of the KSG, which it probably is a variant of the KSG. So we're finally seeing the KSG being brought into Battlefield. The last and final shotgun is the DBV-12, and unfortunately this was another one of those weapons that I was unable to find a picture of. But I hope you guys will take that name and maybe search for a picture yourself, and if you do happen to come across a picture of any of the guns that I was unable to find pictures of, send me a picture of it, because I would love to be able to see the weapons that are going to be in Battlefield 4. But now let's move on to the next weapon category. Now let's move on to the PDW class within Battlefield 4. And for those of you who don't know, the Engineer class is now exclusively able to use the PDWs. They will no longer be for all classes, and the carbines are now for all classes. But let's start off with the MX4, which is a 9mm shooting PDW made by Beretta, aka the makers of the M9. So we can kind of assume this gun's going to perform like a fully automatic pistol in a sense, with a higher capacity magazine. And I do think it's probably going to be a weapon that might be good. It has potential to be good, but at the same time it could be really bad. The next gun is the PP2000, which will be making its return from Battlefield 3 as well as Bad Company 2. And this gun, it looks like they've decided to improve the magazine size to a more accurate size, which could possibly make the gun better, and it could possibly make the gun worse. The next gun is the UMP45, which is infamous from Battlefield 3. And I don't think it's going to be changing at all. I think they're probably going to keep the same stats, since it does shoot at 45. And it could very well just be exactly how it is in Battlefield 3. The next gun is the CBJ MS, which for all of you mini Uzi lovers out there, this is basically your mini Uzi for Battlefield 3. It looks aesthetically exactly the same, and the only difference being that I'm not sure if they're going to make it default, but they have already shown the ability to have a drum mag on this PDW, and in real life you can either get a standard size magazine or the drum mag, so it might be the extended mag that's the drum mag, I'm not sure, but it's definitely going to be something really awesome, and I plan on using it a crap ton because I love the Uzi. The next gun is the PDWR, which was in Battlefield 3 as well, shoots a 5.56, really good gun, but for some reason it didn't shine as good as it should have. The next gun is the CZ3A1, aka the Scorpion Evo, which is going to be really awesome to see within Battlefield 3. It's high firing rate, and it's just going to be definitely an interesting weapon to finally see be brought into Battlefield. The next gun is the JS2, which I don't know very much about this. It was very hard for me to find information on it, but from the appearance, it reminds me a ton of the Chicom from Black Ops 2. So if you guys are familiar with that gun, visually it looks the same. Performance wise, I don't know. It might be a burst fire PDW, we might be seeing that within the game. It might be fully automatic, but visually it reminds me of that weapon. The next gun is the P90, which is my favorite gun from Battlefield 3, and I'm glad to see it come back. I hope they have tweaked it just a little bit so that it feels like I'm using a new gun, because that's why I find myself not using the gun as much anymore, because I've used it so much. It's such an amazing gun, but I get bored of using it. Maybe they'll spice it up a little bit. And the final gun is the UMP9, and this gun aesthetically looks exactly like the UMP45. The main differences being it shoots a smaller round, the 9mm, and it also has a longer or a higher capacity magazine with 30 rounds rather than 26 like the UMP45. Now let's move on to the next group of weapons. Now we're going to look at the sniper rifles for Battlefield 4. To start off with, we have the CSLR-4, which is a Chinese sniper rifle, and it looks pretty cool. I'm not sure how exactly it's going to perform within Battlefield 4. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The next sniper rifle is the M4A5, by far my favorite sniper rifle within Battlefield 3 because of its high bolt speed and its high rate of fire. It just overall was just a great weapon, and I'm glad to see they're bringing it back. The next weapon is the Scout Elite, which is one of those bolt action sniper rifles that is under par in my opinion. It has lower damage, a lower magazine size. It has pretty okay hip fire, but other than that, it doesn't have much going for it. It's probably going to be the contender for the SV98, since the SV98 also is not a very excel in anything particularly, and both of those guns are probably going to be some of the lower level unlocked sniper rifles for the people who like to challenge themselves a little bit. The next one is the SV98, as I just mentioned, returning from Battlefield 3. The next sniper rifle is the JNG90, which I'm glad they brought it back. And a little snippet of information is the JNG90 has new iron sights that they decided to put on the gun, and I'm glad they did. I like the new iron sights. It's a lot easier to use, and I like to go around the JNG90 with iron sights, and I feel like this is going to be really cool. The next one is the 338 Recon, which is a really cool sniper rifle. It is a bullpup designed sniper rifle with the same bullet. It shoots the same bullet as the M98B, so it's going to have high velocity, and it's going to be really devastating in damage, and it's probably going to be a really good sniper rifle. And overall, I think it looks awesome as well. The next sniper rifle is the M98B. It's going to be coming back. The next sniper rifle is the SRR-61, which a lot of you guys may be wondering what is that. It is also known as the M200 Intervention. That's right, guys. The Intervention is now going to be within Battlefield 4, and it's going to be a beast. Damage-wise, everything-wise, it is going to be amazing, and I guarantee this gun is going to be the best sniper rifle in Battlefield 4. The last and final sniper rifle after the climax of the Intervention is not quite as impressive. It's a standard 10-round bolt-action sniper rifle, the FYJG, I believe it's called, or JS, and it looks really mediocre. It has a decent look to it, but I'm not really sure how it's going to perform at this point. Maybe it could surprise us when the game comes out, but I'm not very sure. Now let's move on to the next category of weapons. For the next category of weapons, we're going to look at the weapons that you are able to pick up off of the ground around the map. First off, we have the M82 50 caliber sniper rifle, better known as the Barrett 50 cal. This weapon will come with 10 rounds in the first magazine and 20 rounds after that, so a total of 30 rounds. And it's a semi-automatic 50 caliber sniper rifle with super high damage, and it's definitely going to be a force to reckon with on the battlefield. The next weapon is the M32 multiple grenade launcher. This shoots a ton of it shoots a barrage of airburst grenades in the air in semi-automatic fashion, and it is a really awesome weapon. I can't wait to see it in Battlefield 3. And the final one is the USAS-12 with frag rounds. I'm assuming it's with frag rounds, I'm not certain, but the USAS-12 is definitely one of the pickup weapons. This is basically DICE's way of nerfing the USAS without having to nerf the actual gun. So basically they're making it so that it's restrictive on when you can use it, and that's what makes me think it's the frag rounds, because that was the main issue with the USAS in the beginning, and I think they wanted to bring back its amazingness with frag rounds, but at the same time nerf it, and that is their way of doing it. They also said that it was able to break through walls, such as like wooden walls and stuff, and that's what the frag rounds excel in, so I think that's what it's going to be mainly used for, and I think it's going to be frag rounds, but I'm not certain. Now let's move on to the last and final category of weapons. The last and final weapon class we're going to be looking at is the pistols. And to start off with, we have the P226, which is my favorite pistol. I love this pistol. Its history is awesome. And from what I've seen gameplay-wise, it looks like it's going to be a really cool pistol to use. It is a little bit fatter. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but it's a little bit fatter and a little bit bulkier and squarer than a lot of the other pistols, and I like that about it. And it's definitely going to be a appealing to the eye pistol, in my opinion. It did come from Medal of Honor Warfighter, and it's a great pistol. The next pistol is the M9, which everybody should have expected that coming. It is the standard military pistol for the United States, and we already know what we can expect from that. The next pistol is the QSZ-92, which is a Chinese 9mm pistol. It is used for the Chinese army, and it's going to be the standard issued pistol to start off with on the Chinese faction. The next pistol is the MP443, which is a Russian pistol, M9, or not M9, but 9mm. And it's probably going to be the default pistol for the Russian faction, which makes me wonder, is the P226 going to be a pistol for all factions or something? I'm not very sure at this point, but it is an awesome pistol, and I'm just glad they included it. The next pistol is the Shorty 12 gauge, which is not actually a pistol, but rather it is that miniature 870 shotgun that we saw in the campaign for the original Battlefield 4 trailer back in March or February, and I know I mentioned that the 870 combat shotgun was going to look like that, but I was mistaken. The 870 is actually probably going to look a lot like it does in Battlefield 3, and the Shorty 12 gauge is going to be that small little compact 870, which I think is going to be awesome. Just the fact that they're incorporating this into Battlefield 3. It's going to have lower damage and lower range than the other shotguns, but being able to have that as a secondary is awesome. I loved the inclusion of the Shorty 12 gauge as a secondary Medal of Honor Warfighter, and I'm glad they were able to incorporate it into this game. The next pistol we have is the G18, which will be making a return with an improved firing rate, I must add, and it's just going to be overall beast, of course. The next pistol is the FN57, aka the P90 pistol, which is the pistol made to go with the P90. It is an awesome pistol. Me and JD were actually hoping that they would incorporate this gun into the game, and I'm sure he's going to be stoked to find out that they are. The next pistol is the M98 or the M93R, and I'm glad they're incorporating this weapon as well. They also beefed up the rate of fire on this burst pistol. It is a 9mm, but it shoots burst, for those of you who don't know. The next pistol is the CZ75, which is actually a pistol that can either be in semi-automatic fire or full auto, much like the G18, so maybe we'll be seeing yet another fully automatic pistol within Battlefield 4. The next pistol is the 44 Magnum. I'm glad they're bringing this back. This pistol was definitely used by skillful players because you had to be accurate with it with its small amount of ammo, and I'm just glad they're bringing it back. I absolutely love this pistol. The next weapon is the Compact 45, which, for those of you who do not know, if you guys remember the USP 45 from Call of Duty and a lot of other games, this is basically a compact version of the USP, which I'm stoked about. I love the USP's design and aesthetics, and I'm glad they're bringing this pistol into the game. It is probably going to be the M1911 of this game. Who knows, they might also incorporate the M1911, seeing as it has always been in Battlefield as a weapon that you get for playing previous Battlefields. So maybe if you played Battlefield 3, you'll end up getting the M1911. The next pistol is the MP412 Rex, which is going to be making a return. Another revolver with a lower damage and lower range, but still very, very effective, and I'm glad they're bringing it back as well. But that's all the weapons for today, guys. If you do want to see my next video, where I will end up talking about the equipment that is going to be in Battlefield 4, then definitely stay tuned. I'm going to try and get that up this weekend for you guys, so I know you guys will enjoy that. Also, I went ahead and counted all of the weapons, like the ones that I went over during this video, and I counted a total of 75 weapons with all the primaries and the pistols, and that's amazing. If you look at all of the primaries and pistols within Battlefield 3, I'm pretty sure after all the DLCs, it's not even 75. I'm pretty sure it's 60s or something like that. And it's just amazing how many weapons there are going to be. And if I were to go ahead and add all the equipment, such as the M320, the M26, the small, the RPG, all of that stuff, if I were to add in the knives and all the other weapons, then I think in total we'd have already about 100 to 110 weapons, and that is awesome. That is so many weapons, and I just can't wait for this game. It's going to have so much unlockability, and then the possibilities of guns that they will add in DLCs are endless. So at the launch of this game, we can expect more weapons in the China Rising DLC as well. So there's going to be a ton of weapons, guys. But I hope you guys did like this video. If you did, be sure to smack that like button. And if you'd like more great content, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.